Hello, Anuradha. So I've asked the people and they said it's fine if we speak in English, no translation needed. You are from India, from the organization of tea workers. Before I ask my questions, could you please explain from which organization you are and what's your...
I'm actually from a union of agricultural workers, and that is the union is in a place called West Bengal, which is just next to Bangladesh. And along with the agricultural workers, we also work amongst tea workers, which is to the north of Bengal. And we are basically a trade union, and we work on issues of food security and on issues of the right to work. For example, now in India you have a law which guarantees 100 days of work to people, to rural people, at a particular wage which is quite high compared to the wage levels otherwise. So we have been in a long campaign to fight for this wage, for this scheme, for this act actually, and to actually implement it. And we have also, this act was passed in 2005, so we're busy implementing it now. And recently in 2013, we've also been in a campaign to get a law passed to guarantee food for people, so cheap food for people. So these are the kinds of issues we work in. We do a lot of work on violence against women also, and on generally local governance. And along with that, because tea workers, there is huge starvation amongst tea workers and a lot of hunger, we have been working with tea workers also in this process.
Okay, you mentioned the tea workers, so this is my first question. Many of us here in Germany drink tea every day. For almost all of us, the daily life of tea worker in India is far away. Can you please describe to us their reality of life and what kind of problems they are facing?
Okay, so workers in tea in India, tea is produced in plantations, and plantations are kind of a leftover from the colonial period. So these are basically workers who were brought in 150, 200 years ago. They were like indentured labor that was brought in, like slave labor that was brought in, and brought into places where they were made to cut forests and establish these tea plantations. Tea is not originally from India; it's from China. It was brought to India by the British, and so now you have these plantations which are maybe 4,000, 5,000 acres of land, and you have tea bushes there, and the labor stays there on the plantation itself, and the management is responsible for the wages and the work of the work labor. But they're also responsible for providing them with electricity, with water, with housing, with cheap rations, with school buses for their children to go to school. All these kinds of things are provided by the plantation management. And so you have a kind of an enclave economy, a kind of an island where these workers are totally dependent on the management. And it's a very feudal kind of a relationship which still exists even today. Even though it's one of the biggest industries in my state, it's still a very feudal relationship where the management is like, is like master, and these people are like very much like slaves. And so the amount of dependence on the management for everyday life is huge. And the management has over time retained its very, very low wages and low conditions of work. So despite laws being there and despite the industry being unionized totally, these are all unionized workers and they're considered industrial workers. You have a wage which is a starvation wage. You have housing which is supposed to be a statutory obligation for the management to give, but housing is not provided. It's in very bad disrepair, the housing. People have a drinking water problem. Again, this is a statutory obligation, a legal obligation for the management to provide this. Health is supposed to be a legal obligation, but you don't have proper hospitals and things like that. So it's a section of workers which is in one of the richest industries in my state and which is a unionized industry, but they are often worse off than unorganized casual workers. Their situation is much worse than that.
The price of tea in Germany varies extremely according to the brand. You can buy tea from about 50 cents to up to 10 euros. But it's certainly, it's not the rule that the tea worker earn more if the tea is more expensive, I guess. What is the hourly wage on average, and how high is the share of wage according to the selling price?
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about hourly wage because that will become very small, and people are not paid on an hourly basis. They're paid on a daily basis. So there's a daily. These are daily rated workers. If they work, they get paid. If they don't work, they're supposed to be permanent workers, but they're daily rated. So despite being permanent workers, if they take a day off, their wages get cut and their rations also get cut. So each worker would earn, right now the wage is 122 rupees 50 paisa, which would come to about 1.4 euros. That's what it would amount to. And your tea here, each worker, I mean, we did this presentation in the morning, so we did the calculations for that. Each worker, each woman worker, plucker would pluck about 25 to 30 kgs of tea every day, which helps to produce about 5 to 7 kgs of made tea. Now the value of this made tea is 495 euros. And the worker gets paid less, about 1 euro. So the worker is actually being paid, by our calculations, 0.16%. Not even 1%, 0.16% of the sale proceeds go to the worker. That's how bad the distribution of money is, of what is being consumed in Germany.
Is there a difference in payment between men and women? I ask on the background that I know you work for the organization Moitri.
Yeah.
I would like you to explain that organization, a network of 50 autonomous women's groups.
Yeah.
But is there a difference still in the payment first, and then what is your work in that organization?
Okay, so in tea itself, there's no difference in what a woman plucker would receive and what a male plucker would receive. But there's a difference in the kind of jobs that they do. Most women are pluckers. In fact, yeah, there would be a handful of women who are supervisors or any other kind of work. So they're mainly pluckers, and that is about 60% of the workforce. And the men are considered sub-staff or staff. So it's not as if for the same work they get paid differently, but they are in different work. And the men are in better paid jobs. And also the trade unions are led by the men. And despite the women being a very large part of the workforce, they're not part of the trade union negotiations and all that. So that discrimination is there. So that's the tea sector. In other sectors, for example, in agriculture, there is a definite difference between what men and women are paid. That has declined over time now because we have a law now, which is this 100 days of work I was talking about, guaranteed work. So the government pays equal wages there. So that has had an impact on the labor situation in the country, and you have more of equality in wages. But this is still there. And the network that you're talking about, Moitri, is basically a network of women's organizations which works on violence issues. That is a very huge problem. Safety at work, safety while going to work and coming back, domestic violence, all this is very hugely there. So besides working on work issues with the women, we also take up issues of violence, and that forms a very large part of our work.
I think that the news about daily, incredibly high amounts of rapes in India have reached us now, and
yeah,
we are aware of the problem. Is there an international rise of that awareness, and does that help for you, or do you think is there things, because I personally, when I watch news and I see these things, I don't know what to do, but I would say at least the information is a start of something. But do things change now because of that worldwide discussion about violence against women in India?
I think whether it's domestic violence or rape, reportage is increasing over time. It's not as if violence only has increased. I don't think the frequency of reports of rape is more there because rape has increased. That may be there to a certain extent, but it's also because women are speaking out about it. And rape is more, it's more recently coming out, but domestic violence, in my experience, I've seen this happening over the last 15, 20 years, that women are reporting domestic violence more. So for example, in my organization, in my union, we get about 600-700 cases of domestic violence every year that we deal with. Now these earlier, say 20 years back, when we used to deal with these cases, women used to come to us after 14 years, 15 years of marriage and then report the violence. Now we find within 6 months, 8 months, women report the violence. So an increase in reportage is not necessarily always bad. It could be just because the problem is coming out. For example, like child incest. This was something that people used to talk about before. But people are reporting on this also now. Mothers themselves are reporting about fathers abusing their children. So all this is increasing, and that is not necessarily a negative thing. It could be positive, but there is a tremendous amount of work that has to be done on rape. Especially the fact that women are coming out more and more is making them the target of rape much more. The fact that they're emerging from their houses is becoming more of a public issue now. So I don't think it's depressing. I mean, one shouldn't be depressed, but it's terrible. And the incidents are also horrific at times, but it's good that it's coming out and that we're starting to deal with something.
Is there can we help you in concrete with this organization, or like in your work as in the workers' union? Like, what would you say is chances for us here to support?
I think the issue of work is something in which of the tea wages is something in which people here can help. Germany is imports a lot of Indian tea, and there are a number of companies here which then re-export this tea. They bring in tea from India, repackage it, and then sell it, and they sell it here in the domestic market also. They're very powerful players. German companies are very powerful players in the tea sector in India, and if they were to kind of like, for example, what we've seen over time is that organic tea has become in certain parts of the tea growing area, Darjeeling tea especially, it's become almost 100% organic. You know, there's a lot of talk about organic tea. So that has happened because of consumer pressure from here, or because of pressure from the West. A similar thing could happen about labor standards also. I mean, it's not enough to produce tea which is without pesticides. It's very important to produce tea which is produced by workers who receive proper wages and are living properly. So that is something that you could insist on. That German public could pressurize their companies to insist on buying tea which is you know, sort of cultivated by workers who are being given proper wages. So this is the kind of support we would like from here, and to make companies more accountable also. I mean, our calculations show that 86% of the sales proceeds are taken by retailers and blenders here in Germany, while about 14% is left, and less than 1% for the worker there. So there has to be a change in these equations, and that is something that public here and the governments here could help with.
There is the demand about a more fair share of the income and of the resources of the world, and actually the organization we are organizing this event with Deine Stimme gegen Armut, they are doing an E-Mail campaign. Ihr könnt draußen an den Computern an der E-Mail-Kampagne teilmachen. Es geht um E-Mails an Angela Merkel. Da stehen ganz viele Freiwillige rum, die erklären euch genau, worum es dabei geht. Also eine Möglichkeit, direkt an unsere Regierungsverantwortlichen sich zu wenden. Sorry for talking in German. Now as we have the summit here, the G7, apart from little activities like that, like writing emails to our Chancellor, would you have specific, or your organization have political demands for Mrs. Merkel and the G7 presidents?
It seems the Bangladesh Rana Plaza breaking down and the problem of the textile workers has become very prominent. And therefore now in the G7 there is this entire discussion about labor standards and about meeting standards by companies that are supplying things to companies here, and you know, basically there's a lot of talk about standards. We feel this is something that the G7 should look at and that public here should talk about. I mean, the simplest way for the public to support campaigns in our country is to be a good consumer and to buy properly labeled things, or to sort of, you know, donate money. But I think you need to go beyond that. Instead of being just a consumer and just being a person who donates money, people have to go beyond that and become active citizens and tell their governments that they have to sort of control companies, and control companies both here as well as in India, to actually give proper standards and labor standards to the workers and give proper decent wages to them. So this is something that should come out of the G7, and the G7 consists of 32% of the kind of the production in the world, you know, that they produce that much. So if they were to actually take a very strong stand on this, which is very difficult for them to do unless there is a lot of public pressure on them, it would change a lot of things in the world. And I think that is a very important role that the public here and people like all of you and all of us can play.
Anuradha, Thank you very much for spending time with us and explaining a little bit things. I guess you're here a little bit more time, maybe outside, like 10-15 minutes or whatever, if anyone has questions. And I wish you all the best for the struggle in your country, and I hope that we at least reach some people to support your fight. Thank you very much.